Hello and welcome to Freyman CPA. I'm Greg Freyman. I wanted to talk to you today about our business intake process. The business intake process is a little bit more complicated than the individual intake process. If one is retaining our services for ongoing bookkeeping, a lot will depend on where they've come from and what it is that they've had happen with their business in the past. So, for example, some people will hire us and there might be review or rework that might be necessary for prior time periods, in which case that would be considered a separate engagement. And for ongoing services, that would be the second part of the engagement. So it really becomes two facets. It is rare for us to find somebody that will have a completely very clean set of books and no tax issues when they're seeking us out from a prior accountant. It does happen when we are inheriting as successor accountants a quite phenomenal set of books. And that will typically be when a great professional is retiring and we're basically stepping into the shoes of that past accountant. In more common situations, we're handling something that might have been handled on their own, or not by a professional accounting team. So things need to be deciphered. We need to see what it is that we're getting into and basically many a time clean up the accounting records and get everything ready and up to par for professional standards. That is the importance that hiring a true professional team will help you with. Going forward is quite different because it's more of a maintenance project. It's basically, it would entail ongoing work where we are constantly doing something for your business on some sort of scheduled basis, whether that's the bookkeeping, the sales tax or payroll tax compliance, answering your questions on estimated taxes, or strategizing for your tax liability. That's more of a maintenance ongoing services. Once we sit down and we take a look at the entire picture, we'll be able to decipher the actual cost structure. And the cost structure will obviously also be in two facets. So you'll be dealing with the prior accounting work, which would be one part of the engagement, one set of pricing, depending on what has happened and how many transactions there are in a process and the complexities of those transactions. Not all transactions are the same. Some might carry more complex tax ramifications than others. So going forward, it's obviously it's a simpler process because now we know what we're dealing with. And once we review prior and work on prior, that's when we can better gauge what will happen going forward. So the first 3 months with us is what we call a trial period, where we give a beginning estimate as to what we think you will have to pay us on a monthly basis to retain our services. Now that can be anywhere between $300 to $500 a month. It could be as high as $1,000 a month. It really depends on what it is that we're doing and what is the scope of the engagement. That is best to be kept for a separate video when I go over our pricing structure, but that's basically the gist of it. When we're going to go into that 3 month trial period, we'll actually know what we're dealing with, what are the resources that are required to maintain your account with our firm, and we'll actually communicate with you after the first 3 months whether we are in line with our estimate. And we've actually adjusted our estimates up or we've adjusted them downward depending on what we find in those 3 months. Typically, the first 3 months are also more of an investment of our time because there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be solidified and put into place. We have to make sure that you have taken or you're taking all the tax advantages that you can. So there's actually a lot more communication in the first 3 months of that particular engagement going into the maintenance period than there will be going afterwards. Once we iron everything out, once we put in whatever strategies into place that we know how to put in, that'll again will not reflect what the regular ongoing maintenance payments will be like because we will no longer need to establish that foundation that should be there. And examples of strategizing would be making sure that you're getting your home office deduction through your business the right way. Or maybe the auto deduction wasn't going through properly, maybe wasn't recouped at all. And so that's communication. That's a lot of back and forth and a lot of setup in those first 3 months. But once we set it up, The ongoing afterwards, we no longer have to do that. Everything's been handled. The training part has been there. The education part has been put into our relationship as well. So now you understand what's happening and you can just take it forward. So there would be an actual decrease in price after the first 3 months. And again, depending on what it is that we're doing, we're just trying to assess everything and make sure that it's fair for both sides of the parties. Anyway, so thank you again for taking the time out to watch this video on our business process. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Obviously, we can't cram everything into a short 6-minute video, but that's the basic gist of it. Again, just to summarize, we're breaking down the engagement into different facets. A brand new business that comes to us will be handled differently than a business with history, because there's a lot less groundwork that needs to be implemented, obviously. But there still will be a lot of foundational work that needs to be put in, a lot of educational work. So again, there would still be an upfront investment of our time, whereas once we go into maintenance, it's much simpler, much less resources are involved. So that's how you got to think about it when you're dealing with us and when we're dealing with the business engagement. So it's basically, if you're an existing business with history or you're a brand new business, that's basically the two sides of the spectrum that we're dealing with. And again, when we're dealing with an existing business with history, that also will a lot will depend on what it is that we're inheriting as a successor accountants. All right, well, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate you. And we welcome you to our firm, and we can't wait to work with you. Have a great day. Take care.